Welcome back to Season 3, Episode 13 of the Inside Sports Podcast, alongside Ryan Greaser and Howard Warner. This is JKruse, and yes, I'm wearing sunglasses inside because I think I'm better than all of you. I'm just a better person. I'm just kidding. Howard and I talked a little bit about it last week, of how I like the sunglasses indoors look, so I'm going to try to make it my thing, potentially. No, honestly, I just forgot my glasses in my car, and I'm too lazy to go back out and get them. So, also shout out to Editor Will. Before we get started, I do believe he'll be back editing the pod this week. And guys, is the DE capitalized? Always. D's always capitalized. Don't you ever forget it. Let's start this week with women's basketball. Got the only win of this last weekend, but it was a dominant one, and one player in particular dominated the stat sheet.
Yeah, women's basketball got their win after a loss on last Wednesday against UL Monroe, but I think the loss against them kind of laid the foundation for the win because you and me were there, JKruse, and while it was happening, like we were looking at Gift Uchenna when she got the ball. She was just confident in what she did. She put the ball on the floor and then put it right up, and it was efficient. Like she was making her shots, and she only scored 16 points in 16 minutes. That's incredibly efficient. And then you look at what happened on Saturday against IUND, and she had a career game where she dropped 34 points, 17 rebounds, 4 steals, 2 blocks. I mean, she was literally a dominant force down low. And it's at the point where already you're kind of seeing some of the other pieces as well take place, like Alice Kerman. We saw her on Wednesday have 8 assists, and she didn't play on the Saturday game, but she can be that team's facilitator. But it really looks like this can be a season where we see Gift Uchenna really take over and be that main focal point, and which is kind of different than, I guess, traditionally where you see you're big on the floor, getting majority of the touches and being your main offensive piece. But I mean, if she continues to be as efficient as this, I don't see a problem with it. And the real thing that I think will hold this team back is obviously limiting turnovers and not getting beat in the glass. I talked about it last week, how like there was a propensity to just like have your hands up down low and just allow the other team to come in and crash the glass for rebounds. But if Gift Uchenna's down there, she obviously has, I think, more awareness with the experience that she has, more awareness to box out and take those opportunities away from opposing teams. But really encouraging stuff out of her. And Tierney Brown had a 10 points in her homecoming. She's probably, I think, been like maybe your second most consistent player so far in her senior season. I'm liking what I'm seeing, what we're seeing from the women's team so far. And obviously, if Gift Uchenna's playing like this, she'll definitely carry us down the stretch.
Yeah, and with the injuries still continuing to pile up. You mentioned how Alice Kerman didn't play on Saturday. That poor girl's got a black eye right now. I think she had a terrible fall.
Right.
So I think she may have gotten a concussion. Potentially, I can't confirm or deny exactly what happened, but I mean, I would be surprised based on what happened. But you talked a lot about Gift Uchenna. I mean, her touch around the rim is insane. So they're definitely going to have to keep feeding her. And defensively, you allowed 80 points to IU India. Which formerly IUPUI, by the way. I don't know if anyone...
Oh.
Yes, that's who they are. They took the PU out of there, but they still stick. Came up with that on the spot. Thank you. But yeah, no, it's encouraging. But let's see them string together a few more times and tighten it up on the defensive end before we get too ahead of ourselves. The men's side of things, tough loss at Oklahoma State. We still won the series, though, 2-1 against the Cowboys. And listen, I mean, if you're Oklahoma State, kind of like needed to win this game just to say that you didn't go 0-3 against the mid-major, but still some positive signs. But similar to the women's team, right? Like both of these teams, they sort of mirror each other stylistically. They both play fast, but they both deal with kind of the same problems, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing in this one, they just couldn't get to the free throw line. They shot like 6, and I think they shot 8, but 4 of them came in like the last minute.
Yeah.
They could not get to the free throw line at all in this game. And the offense was really streaky. Like, Elijah Elliott, he is really showing that he's a boom or bust player. He's either going to drop 20 or he's going to drop 8 on 20 shots. Like, this game, he was on. And the offense was clicking all the time when he was out there. But then if he came out of the game, like he got hurt briefly, that just stopped all of our momentum. We let Oklahoma State go on a 10-0 or 12-0 run at that point. And that just put it out of reach for us. We were down 18. We came back within 4. So it was really encouraging to see the team not give up. Yeah. And Coach Nagy really talked about that in his press conference, his very, very short press conference.
Yeah.
Those 2 minutes really are hard to pull much out of. but he was at least proud of that. And I think that this was really kind of the game they needed to play to show themselves that, like, we can hang against a better team. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
because they hadn't played anyone good, but they hadn't played well against anybody yet.
Right.
I think this was the first game where they, like, really showed what they might be able to beat. They are still liabilities on the defensive end. Like, there is not a defensive stopper on this team at all.
Yeah.
Like, maybe Rollins can get there,
Yeah.
but he's a freshman. I don't think you should be relying on a freshman to do that.
You thought Kennard could be that kind of.
He could.
Kind of that, like.
Just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen it
Like,
yet.
he showed it in flashes last year.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma State, they had to, they fired and had a whole different regime change with their basketball program as well. So definitely a much needed win for them. But I think, like you said, Elijah Elliott is probably that main shot creator. And like if he's not on, then it'll be tough to manufacture offense, it seems.
Yeah.
We'll see how they play tonight though against North Dakota State.
He's also really is he really a true point guard?
No,
Do we have a point guard on this team?
we don't.
Exactly.
I think
I
that
don't think so.
it
Like,
runs
that's
between
the-
him,
that's the
Sykes, and Kennard.
That's the thing that I worry about, because with this kind of offense, you would think that would be the most important piece. It may be not even just like a true point guard, but at least like a guy who could facilitate.
Yeah.
I think
I don't know
Davion
that we
Sykes
have
can
that.
facilitate, but
He doesn't start though.
he doesn't start, and he's a really streaky player. Like, he'll make like a great play, and you're like, man, this guy should be out there. Like Brandon Wilcoxon, he was at that game, and like he was texting me back and forth. I was like, dude, I think Davion Sykes is the best player on the floor right now. Immediately gets beat on the next 3 possessions. So he's inconsistent. The other thing for me in this game was our paint defense. It was, if you looked at the stats board, it was really bad. Like, we were giving up offensive rebounds. We were giving up. I mean, if they got the ball into the paint, it was over. Like, they were scoring. They had 30-some points in the paint, and they shot. It was just a crazy percentage. It was like, how, you can't let that happen if you're going to win games. So, not bad. I'm excited to see what they do tonight versus North Dakota State. And then they go to Florida this week as well. Well, not this week. Yeah, Friday, the 22nd.
Yep.
They play Florida in Gainesville.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be our second Power 5, Power 4, if you're going to call power conferences.
In basketball, it's still 5 because you have the Big East. Don't forget about the Catholic Conference, as I call it.
Yeah.
This game against North Dakota State's going to be pretty interesting. I wanted to add this in real quick. We're kind of a team that, Howard, you probably know this better than I would. What do they call it, like when a team looks good in layup line? Like they look like, there's a term for this.
Yeah.
There's a term for when like you're doing layup lines and you look at one team and they just look so much better.
Warm-up warriors? That's not what it is.
I can't think of like a term for it. But
There
I
is a
know
term
what
for
you
it.
mean though.
But like, yeah, we're a team that looks great in warm ups. Like we're all long. We're like extremely athletic.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
when the game starts, it's like we don't have enough of guys who fit certain roles. We have a lot of guys who can do a little bit of everything, but nobody's elite at anything.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's just something we'll have to see develop and evolve over the rest of this season. But hey, both teams had a little bit of a struggle to start, but neither teams have, especially the men's side, like they haven't lost a game that we were thinking they obviously needed to win.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Let's move on to football. Their last tough game of the year, their last road game of the year. Don't need to spend probably too much time on it because it's pretty obvious. Nobody really had too much hope heading into that game.
Yeah.
There was a South Dakota State trying to take out our boy on the first play of the day. Tell us a little bit about that 41-10 loss to South Dakota State.
Yeah, I mean, they're the national champs for the reason, defending national champs for a reason. I mean,
Yeah.
Didn't have much of a shot, but they really beat us in every facet. They had 503 yards of total offense, and 288 of them were on the ground. And we didn't have our off-ball linebackers, 2 of them, and Chris Presto or Shug Walker in this one. That probably played a massive role in stopping the run. But still, I mean, that's what they do. If you're the Jackrabbits, you run the ball, and they had their way with it today. Talk about JKruse. He was limited throughout the week already, and Coach Nick Hill said it was a game-time decision probably anyway in terms of playing on Saturday. And after you go down 31-0 in the first half, not much chances or hopes of a comeback like you did the previous week. So he didn't end up playing the second half, and you get in your Michael Lindauer, and not only with his status as a player in general, but with the game, he definitely had nothing to lose in this one. He didn't have a bad showing. He was 12 for 17, 145. He had a touchdown, but he also had a pick. JKruse threw a pick in his time out there. I guess some saving graces that a lot of guys did get game reps in that fourth quarter. Underclassmen and freshmen who didn't have a lot of experience coming in, and they got some chance to go some good competition. But definitely a loss that you watch, and because like you said, we didn't expect much out of it in general. Hopefully this senior day this weekend that they can pick up a win against Murray State.
Yeah, this is certainly one that it's probably the only game in this season since like maybe the SEMO game that we expect to win,
Yeah.
right? So it would be a nice senior day if we can get that done. Which, by the way, I don't know if you guys realize, the FCS schedule moved to 12 games this year. It's normally been 11.
I was gonna say I thought that we had an extra one.
It's weird, yeah. So I mean, I'm cool with it because it makes for a longer season and more football we get to watch.
Yeah.
Final sport, volleyball. My girls, we're now 10-18, 3-14 in the Missouri Valley Conference. We're 11th. The bottom has fallen out. We've talked about it at length. The season a couple weeks ago, I said it was effectively over. Last week, I said it was basically over, but now it's actually over. I mean, we still have one game left, so it's not officially over, but it's pretty much over. No chance of making the conference tournament anymore. We lost 3-1 to Drake on Friday and 3-0 to UNI. You wouldn't think there would be a lot to take away from this weekend, but from that Drake game in particular, there was a lot. And that Drake game, and I went back and looked, there were 5 different games this season that I thought there's no reason we should have lost any of them. And like if we go 2-3 in these games, like there's a chance we're in the conference championship, right? There was a Lindenwood game earlier this year when Kelly didn't play because she got hurt. The Evansville game, I mean, I know they have that one girl who's got like 37 kills, but you can't lose to Evansville. Okay, sorry, Purple Aces, you typically suck. Both the Belmont and Murray game, for freaking sure, for different reasons, and then the Drake game. And to get a little bit more specific, we dominated that first set against Drake. I could never have seen that coming. Like you mentioned, the second set, we go up 24-20. We're 1 point away. 1 point away from going up 2-0 on the second best team in the conference. And unfortunately, Emma served it into the net, and they ended up going on a 6-0 run. Closed out set 2, and we never really got close in set 3. Then set 4, we go up 22-20, and then they go on another run, 5-0 to close out the match. It was just, again, we'll talk about this later with the Bears, but it's like when something continues to happen over and over again, eventually you become numb.
Yeah. And
you're not all that disappointed because at this point it's what you expect, no?
Yeah, I mean, this was a game where like it felt winnable for multiple reasons. Like when the game started, I asked you, I was like, man, they look kind of small at the net, don't they?
They did. Like both Drake and you and I really like didn't look all that.
You and I had like I think a couple more players where I was like, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
But Drake specifically, like, not big at the net, didn't look physically imposing. He should have won the first 2 sets. Like I was like, man, this is the second best team in the conference.
Right. Yeah.
And then we choked it away and couldn't come back from it like we have most of this year. And like you said, good stuff to take away because and I think in part because of he knew the season was dwindling down and wanted to get his seniors out there. But you get Brinley Bidette more time up front, Maggie Wallenberger, and it's like they were playing kind of inspired that Friday night. It's just disappointing for it to end like that, and you and I wasn't really close. I mean, they dominated from the opening play, and it wasn't definitely a disappointing way to end this season at Davies for sure.
For sure. You mentioned Maggie and Ridley playing a lot, and the rest of the senior didn't play at all this weekend.
No.
That was interesting.
Erica Kowski only played. Did she play or did she play like barely?
I think she did, but barely.
Yeah.
I think honestly, you might be right on that. Maybe she didn't.
But I don't remember, but yeah.
We talked all year about how the net in volleyball is like a line of scrimmage in football. You gotta win it, right? It seemed like we were winning it more this weekend than any of the other previous 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Do you think, I don't know, is there something to the fact that maybe Maggie and Brinley should have been there the whole time? I mean, offensively, definitely not. I'll just say that because Larissa was top 10 in hitting percentage.
Yeah.
Offensively, yes, but defensively, there might be something to that. I don't know because when they were in, it just seemed like we were a lot more confident, and they weren't even. A lot of times, they weren't even attacking the middle, especially Drake. And you talked about how they weren't as physically imposing with their middles. But I don't know. That was the biggest takeaway for me from this weekend was, should that have been the rotation the whole time? And obviously Ed is there in practice every single day or not. So
it's interesting because the 2 weeks before he was doing a lot of switching. Like he was switching a lot, and it's like you feel like you said, Larissa, maybe like when we're serving that she's out there, and then when the opposition is serving, and then we bring in Maggie and it's repetitive. I don't know, especially in like a last ditch effort to save your season type of thing. But like I said, Ed knows best. Would know best, and I don't know. Yeah, it's good for them to get run. Since they got 100 seniors and they didn't play terribly as well.
For sure. And I heard somebody say this week, I won't say who said it, but somebody this week had brought up like Ed not being here next year. The only reason he wouldn't be here next year is if he retired. Ain't no way that he's getting let go. And I mean, think about where this program was a few years before he took over. And he's the real deal, and he ain't going anywhere. So the last game of the season is at Missouri State. It's on Wednesday. So by the time you're seeing this, maybe that game has already happened. And I will be there. I'm actually going with him. So that'll be a nice little last road trip. Of course, I was originally scheduled to go to the conference championship, but not going to make it to that. So I figured I'd split the baby in half and go with him to Missouri State. I'm also bringing my shooting sleeve on that trip as well. If you know, you know. Let's move on to the segment. My favorite segment, America's favorite segment. Me and Howard, top of the leaderboard, 56 and 34, 62.2%. We both went 5-3 last week. I went 3-0. He went 2-1 in college football, and in NFL he went 2-3 and 3-2. And then right behind us, just 2 games behind, at 60%, folks. We're hitting at an unbelievable rate this season. If our third place guy's hitting at 60%, it's Ryan Greaser. He's 54 and 36, 4-4. He went 2-1 in college football and 2-3 in the NFL. Now we said on last week's pod, last week's college football slate wasn't the greatest, which is why Ryan, I would love to know your reaction when you saw USC and Nebraska on the picking slate.
I was just confused. I was like, seriously, Nebraska that's like 500 is on the slate this week?
Yeah, I listen, there weren't that many great games. I'm like, okay, this one's a close one, like 2 pretty popular teams. Like, we all picked USC to beat Nebraska, and they did. Now, there was a really, really bad non-PI call in this game that kind of flipped things on its head. I still think USC was the better team, but that kind of screwed Nebraska for sure. And the Cornhuskers and the Trojans are in grave danger of missing a bowl game. Both of them are. And Nebraska plays Wisconsin this week, and then they go to Iowa. USC plays UCLA this week, and then I think they host Notre Dame. I think.
Well, that's a loss.
Yeah, so both of those teams could miss a bowl game, which is crazy. My Gamecocks, our Gamecocks, America's Gamecocks, beat Mizzou, and I do have to give Mizzou some credit because they were big underdogs in this game, and they made it really, really close. They were ahead by 3 with under a minute to go, and then Rocket Sanders powered up the middle for a nice touchdown, put South Carolina ahead for good. Again, that atmosphere, folks, if you didn't see that crowd after that game, it's unbelievable. So shout out to the South Carolina Gamecocks. We all picked them. And then the game that put me up 3-0 and them 2-1, Georgia Bulldogs took down the Tennessee Volunteers in a game that Tennessee was ahead early on. They went up 10-0 in the first quarter. It was tied at 17 at the half, and then Georgia just dominated in the second half. Now, an interesting storyline from this game that I think we talked about it a little going into last week, but Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava was in concussion protocol all week, and he still played the game. Josh Heupel got a lot of criticism for that. Don't really know if that really affected him. I mean, I didn't really get a sense that it was, but he didn't play that great, especially in the second half, so that's why Tennessee lost. We'll get to the picks for this week in just one second, but first, here's your Daily Egyptian Casters poll. Boys, this is a wild one. I'll just say this. And the other thing, too, is there is a growing divide, I think, between teams we think are good, or the teams we think that can win it, and teams that are okay, but we don't think they can actually win things. And it's very, very clear. I can't wait to get everyone's reaction because this is going to be all over the place. Coming in at number 10, they just edged into the top 10, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Okay. They continue to win games, right? They play an undefeated Army team this week, which they're favored by like 2 touchdowns. I don't know if Army can win that game. If they did, that would be kind of cool. And Army would be undefeated. They would have a real case, I think, to hop Boise State for that highest rated conference champion if they were to make it. Because I mean, think about it.
Beating Notre Dame would give them
That would give them a better win than anything Boise State has, and Boise State also lost a game. So I mean, it sucks, but that's just kind of the way it is at this point. Maybe Boise State could still make it in as a potential at large.
no.
Maybe, maybe. They'd have to have a lot of chaos. At number 9, right above Notre Dame with 18 points is Penn State. We'll get to them later. We've talked at length about how we feel about the Nittany Lions. Now, that's the divide, and here are where the real contenders start to take shape. At number 8, and actually 7 and 8 are tied with 28 points, the Tennessee Volunteers and the Ole Miss Rebels. We have tied for 7th, both with 28 points. Right above them, 1 point ahead, and I'm actually going to recalculate this because this just doesn't seem real. 9 plus 12 plus 8.
29.
Okay, so it's real. I did the math right. Indiana, right above Tennessee and Ole Miss at 29 at number 6. Then we have another tie. Tied for 4th, Alabama and Georgia with 32 points, yes. Right above them at number 3. Now we get to the top 3. Pretty predictable. I think Texas coming in at number 3 is what we all expected. So much to talk about. Number 2, we have a new number 1 this week, boys. A team that has been number 1 before, but they've never been a consensus number 1 before, as far as I'm aware. I think Ohio State is back at number 1, which means Oregon is down at 2. Now, I know why I have Ohio State back at 1, and Ryan, you went 1 week putting Oregon at 1, and now you're right back to Ohio State.
Yeah.
Did Oregon's performance against Wisconsin influence this a lot?
Yeah. I mean, that's literally the whole reason. Like,
I figured.
it was just, Oregon looked very beatable in that game. Like,
Very much so.
Wisconsin has not been a consistently good team all year.
No.
I don't think they hardly have any good wins either. And they played Oregon hard. Like, I mean, you can have that in football. Like, you just come out, you have a crazy week. But this is the most beatable. Not really. I think they looked worse in the Ohio State game. And they just managed to win that one.
Sure.
Because things just went perfectly for them.
Right.
They probably should have lost this one too. So, like, having 2 games that, like, you should have lost, they're not the number 1 team in my book at all.
I completely agree.
Interesting. So let me do the other receiving votes real quick, and then I will put this on the doc so you guys can take a full look at where we stand right outside the top 10. Coming in at number 11 was the Texas A&M Aggies for 13 points. The Miami Hurricanes have officially fallen out of the top 10. They are 12th with 9. SMU 13th with 7. So that's probably going to be your ACC championship right there, Miami and SMU. The Colorado Buffaloes, they got 6 points. They continue to play well. My South Carolina Gamecocks coming in 15. And then Ryan Greaser decided to still put Clemson in his top 15 for whatever reason. And they come in at number 16 with 2. Okay. The teams that, this was the most surprising part. Okay. One of you did not have Miami at all.
I
In your
just
top
found my
15.
mistake. I had Ole Miss twice. I meant to have Miami at 11.
That's where I met. That's what wasn't making sense.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Because I just was looking at my list. I was like, wait a second. Ole Miss is in the
That's
top 10,
hilarious.
but then they're right here.
Okay.
What happened?
Well, either way, Miami still wouldn't be in our top 10.
No.
They would be 11th instead of 12th. Either way, okay, so Miami's not in there. The one interesting one was Howard did not have Texas A&M in his top 15.
Hmm.
Is it more that other teams are playing better, or is it more that A&M? Well, they haven't really played much, really, since their loss to South Carolina. I think they had a bye, and I think they played like a Little Sisters of the Poor yesterday or something.
Exactly. It's the thing where, like, since the bye, like, you can either lose stock or gain stock, even just by not playing. And, like, there are other teams, like in Colorado, like in South Carolina, like at SMU, that's, like, constantly getting better each week. And that just put more of an impact. One thing I am noticing, in our top 15, no BYU, which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
But no BYU.
It's about dang time.
I mean, yeah.
Some of
Just
us
for,
saw it
like,
coming.
Just for none of us to have them at all is hilarious to me.
But I mean, why wouldn't we? Why would we?
Yeah.
Ohio State being consensus number 1 was really interesting, but again, I think it's pretty justified. The most interesting part, I think, of the rest of this season is going to be the SEC logjam. They've got 6 teams in our top 11. I think A&M, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Georgia, Bama, Texas. Yeah, that's 6 teams in the top 11. A&M and Texas are going to play at the end of the season, right? and then all these other teams have played each other already. So we've only got one game left in this logjam, and the tiebreaker scenario at the end of the year is going to be pretty interesting. But it's actually a lot simpler than you realize because we look like we're heading to a spot where it's going to be 5 teams tied at 6-2 in the conference, which is just crazy, right? But let me just simplify it for you. If whoever wins the A&M and Texas game is going, right? They're going to the SEC championship. And the team that has the best record against, like head-to-head record against those teams in that logjam is Ole Miss. They've only played one of them and they've won the game. They're 1-0. So basically, your SEC championship is more than likely going to be Texas/Texas A&M versus Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss has the easiest route. They just can't mess up at Florida this week. As long as they win out, they're going to get in pretty much automatically. So that's also pretty interesting. Let's see what else was in here that I thought was weird. You guys just finally stopped your Tennessee love affair after their loss to Georgia. Now Ryan still had it at 5, but you did put Georgia back up at 3. So I guess that makes sense. And the team we're going to talk about in a second, I think this is a good transition into the picks this week. The Indiana Hoosiers end up at number 6. If you watched BYU last week, you know that teams who haven't played anybody and have gotten away with some interesting wins, they're bound to fall at some point. Boys, is their time up? Is their time up?
I think their time is up this week. Maybe not just, I don't think it'll derail their season.
It shouldn't, but you never know.
Yeah, we never know. But I just think this is quite easily the best competition they played all year. I mean, where they're a number 1 team for a reason. And Ohio State, I think, is going to come out and I think they'll probably end up switching in the AP poll this week with the win against Indiana. They'll flip with Oregon, but
you think so? Even though Oregon is still undefeated and they technically did beat Ohio State.
Yeah, I know. It just depends on what Oregon does, I guess. But like we said, Oregon did not look good this past weekend. If you have another weekend looking like that, and it's a power rating in terms of the AP poll. So one team is declining, one team is ascending. This is a game where Ohio State, I think, can get in the good graces, you would say, of that committee and kind of show that, hey, we're still that team. We're the team to beat. So I'm rolling with the Buckeyes this weekend.
Yeah, Oregon plays Washington this week. Washington just had a good showing this week, but the spread on this game being 12.5, like Jordan was saying off camera, I really like to take those kind of games to cover. I definitely would on this one. I don't think Indiana's going to get embarrassed, but they're not going to win because Ohio State, they're out for blood. Yeah. With that one loss to Oregon, they're like, screw that. We're going to show that we should be the Big Ten champs. I think they probably will be. I mean, I'm putting them over Oregon in my poll, so I think they will.
Yeah.
But they know that this game is incredibly important. I mean, Indiana's up to 5th, which is just crazy.
It is.
But Indiana's played really well. This will be a really entertaining game. I don't think it'll ever feel like Ohio State is not going to win. You're never going to have a sense that they're out of the game.
Sure.
But it'll still be a good one to watch.
A Hoosier win would shake some stuff up.
Hoosier win would be crazy.
That would be insane. I would say if they win this game,
they could win the Big Ten.
They deserve to be the number 1 team in the country if they win.
You think so?
I mean, they're undefeated and they win to Ohio State.
But if Oregon
And
wins,
won a game.
then what do you think? Do you think you'll still flip them over them?
I mean, that's what I would do. That's what I would do.
It just depends on what fashion, I guess, you win.
If it's a dominating win, yes. But if it's
Oh, you mean if Ohio State wins?
No, I mean, if Indiana comes in and is in control the whole game.
I think if they win in any way, shape, or form, they should be the number 1 team in the country.
Really?
I mean, they've dominated everybody. I mean, think about how many games Oregon struggled in this season. Not even just the Wisconsin game, like the Idaho game at the beginning of the year, the Boise game they definitely should have lost.
All right,
Indiana has shown the only game where they showed some signs of weaknesses was Michigan, and again, Michigan's a team with a bunch of NFL players. You knew they were gonna. That was probably the best game they played all year. Yeah, they still won the game, right? So if Indiana wins by 1 or 100, I think they should be the number 1 team in the country. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think Ohio State's going to win the game. I do think. Now again, the discussion now becomes how much is too big of a loss for Indiana? If they lose by 21, will they be in danger of missing the playoff? I mean, the spread's 12.5. So, like, if Ohio State wins 31-17 or 38-24, I don't feel like that should hurt Indiana too much because that's what we were expecting anyway.
Yeah, just
Like,
don't get boat raced.
You can't get boat raced.
Don't let it get out of hand.
And
Show that you're still competitive. And
Yeah.
I don't think it'll hurt you too much in the end.
no, Ohio State's definitely going to try to boat race them if they see that opportunity. But it's going to be great. And of course, Howard, this game is at 11 a.m. on Fox.
Indeed.
Big noon kickoff. And by the way, look what happened. Saturday night, Wisconsin played the number 1 team in the country at night.
Yeah.
I mean, look, they almost beat them.
Yeah.
They almost beat them. You think that happens if they give the noon? Heck no. Heck no. Next game. God, I hate the noon kickoff. Next game, 2:30 CBS. I'd be fine if Ohio State played it this time too. Right? Did you hear last week, by the way? I was saying, like, Ohio State's last 6 games are all at noon. Stupid. Stupid. Penn State, Michigan are always at 2:30 on CBS. I would kill to be on that because I love CBS. Penn State, Minnesota, same spread, 12.5. Now, Minnesota was a team that was playing really, really good football until they lost to, I forget.
They lost to Rutgers this
To
week.
Rutgers, yes.
Well, 2 weeks ago.
Or 2 weeks ago. Before that, I was kind of ready to pick Minnesota in this game. But because they lost that, I still think Minnesota could definitely win because you all know how we feel about Penn State. They've probably been the team that we've talked the most about, like low-key talked the most
It's
about.
fraudulent.
As just like how much we don't think they're good.
Yeah.
I think we're all going to pick Penn State to win this game. But again, would any of us be surprised if Minnesota pulled it out here? No, I don't think so,
I wouldn't
right?
be too surprised. Like, I'd be like a little surprised. But I think this is more just like you just give the ball to Tyler Warren and just let him go crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
he's unbelievable.
Like, just don't let it get too complicated. Handle your business. You know, be that one-loss team in the year like we expect you to be, but not, really be that intimidating in the end. I'm still taking the Lions.
Yeah.
Minnesota, hey, if you pull this off, shout out to you, but I don't think they will.
Yeah,
I'm rolling with Penn State too. I was, again, off camera, I was up much higher on Minnesota before I went and looked at their games. Really, the only quality win that I see is them beating Illinois.
Yeah.
Because they lost 31-14 to Iowa, they lost 27-24 to Michigan, they beat USC by 7, beat UCLA by 4. Now, their best win probably was beating Maryland by 25.
Yeah, they had a stretch middle of the season where they were like,
They did. They looked really good,
yeah,
and then they lost to Rutgers. So
right. That's so confusing.
Minnesota's a confusing team, but they beat Illinois. And if you don't remember, Illinois stuck really tight with Penn State throughout that entire game.
Yep.
So
And then Illinois just did Michigan State,
yeah,
and they destroyed them. So
yeah.
interesting. We're all going with the Nittany Lions. Some pretty interesting Big Ten action this weekend, and nothing more interesting though. This last game, thank God that the BYU Cougars lost a game finally to Kansas. And honestly, that, of course, the game they lose is a game that they probably got not screwed on, but there was the quarterback punt from Jalen Daniels, the pooch, what do they call it, the pooch kid.
Mm.
It goes down and it hits a BYU deep because he was technically a DB, right? Because the guys they looked like they were going to run and play. And Kansas picks it up. Devin Neal runs in for a touchdown. BYU couldn't score the rest of the game. So finally, BYU lost. And personally, I'm on a principle battle here. Because you guys know I'm a man of my principles.
Mm-hmm.
BYU's coming off a loss. Seems like an easy BYU pick. But my other principle is the entire year I've just been saying how much I think BYU sucks. And they're going to Arizona State, who has been playing arguably some of the best football in the entire country here recently. They rolled Oklahoma State. They beat a solid UCF team. And then last week they go on the road and beat Kansas State. I'm going Sun Devils, boys. Sun Devils over the Cougars. Now, you guys don't have anything down yet. Can I help convince you?
Please
Go for it. So Arizona State, if you haven't seen this.
I know what I do know is Tite Roll.
He's on Arizona.
Oh,
Not Arizona
yeah.
State.
See, that's what I thought.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
He's on Arizona. Now,
Oh.
that guy's going to be a top 10 pick,
Yeah,
probably.
he's not.
He's a demon. But Arizona State has something that may be better. Have you ever watched this guy named Cam Scatabo run the ball? He's like, there's not really a Peyton Hillis, I guess.
Okay.
Peyton, okay.
Alright.
He's just like a power back who just, I don't don't know. He runs freaking hard. I don't know what else to say. We've got a good quarterback as well, Sam Levitt, former Michigan State guy. He's been playing some really, really good ball. Jordan Tyson, their wide receiver last week, 12 catches, 176 yards against Kansas State on the road. They've got some freaking playmakers on this team, and I think they are going to roll the Cougars. Absolutely roll the Cougars in this game.
How much? We going?
38 to 10.
38 to 10.
Blowout. No, I don't know. I just think they're going to win the game.
All right.
Because of my principles, I'm going to say it's going to be a really, really close one that Arizona State ends up winning. But
maybe this says something about me, but you convinced me pretty thoroughly there.
I've never steered you wrong in college.
No, you haven't. In college,
The NFL, yes.
Yeah.
But in college, no.
college is what's been killing me lately. I've not won a great streak in college, but
Don't do it. Don't do
I
it.
have a lot of faith in this. Me and you are tied in the NFL and college. I need some separation.
That's true. That's true.
So I'm just going out on a limb here. BYU, I need you this weekend. Come up clutch. I'm going with the Cougars.
This is a pretty chalky week. It's all pretty big spreads.
Yeah.
There's nothing really to look at. Even rivalry week, I kind of like to play these things ahead. There's really only one game. It's Texas and Texas A&M that I think we could have some difference on. But what's going to be great is for conference championship week.
Yeah.
That could go so many different ways. It's going to be awesome. So can't wait for that. We will. So quick programming note while I'm on the topic. No pod next week. We'll still do picks. So when we come back the week after Thanksgiving break, we will have stuff to update you on. It's going to be an interesting ride down to the end for the college version of the King Tut's Cup. And so Ohio State, we're all taking them to beat Indiana, all taking Penn State to beat Minnesota in a game that none of us would be mad if Minnesota won. And then Howard is sticking with the Cougars, and me and Ryan are going to take the red-hot Arizona State Sentinels. All right, Ryan Greaser, NFL time.
NFL time, here we go. You know how we start NFL? We always start with fantasy football. So this week,
for the last 3 episodes.
we don't always start with fantasy football. But we're starting with it this week. So we're just going to go straight into buy-sell. I don't have a whole lot of analysis to give you, unfortunately. My fantasy team is very bad. I was one of those who drafted Christian McCaffrey first. And when he didn't play for the first 5 weeks, you can imagine how well my team did. So I really kind of lost interest in fantasy. But I got that great football mind on my head. I'm going to call it that. So give me the Seahawks pass catchers this week. So I actually asked Howard if Tyler Lockett was playing. I think it's time for a vintage Tyler Lockett game. We haven't had one yet this year.
Nope.
Really? And he's just a crusher of souls in big games like this.
For sure.
They're playing the 49ers this
Shoulder
week.
passes in the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Go Ted.
And then JSN, he's been coming up strong. DK's had a great year all year. He's been great. Now, my sell this week, J.K. Dobbins, his former squad. He's playing the Ravens. I think he's been outperforming this year. I really do. I mean, I'm not a Dobbins hater. I feel really bad for the guy. He's finally healthy,
Yeah.
and he's having a good season,
It's not
but
true.
I don't think that he's going to be able to run very much against the Ravens.
It is so nice that he's been healthy, though. Finally, we're finally getting to see him bloom, for the first time since really his college days, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
I'm buying all of the Lions this week versus the Colts. The Lions have a tendency this year to just run up the score against inferior competition.
what a bold pick from Howard.
Yeah, it's the games. The games this week are pretty, especially in the 12 o'clock league. They're pretty rough. But I picked Jameson Williams last week. He had a pretty good day. You know what? Let me be more specific. Sam Laporte. This is the game. This is the game that he goes off.
Okay, I like that because
He's
he's not done much this year.
Exactly.
Now, if you're going to say all the lines, do you include their defense and special teams on that too? That is a playable thing for the Lions.
Yeah, they lost Anzalone.
They did. He's going to be out for the rest of the regular season.
And the Colts, Anthony Richardson didn't look too bad yesterday against the Jets, so maybe he can air it out. True, but he was looking terrible against everybody before. So I don't know what's up with some quarterbacks getting benched and come back and looking better. Bryce Young, Matt Richardson.
Imagine that, having time to develop and actually learn.
Imagine that.
Yeah, weird, right?
Imagine not ruling guys out after 3 games in the league. But weird. I'm also selling the Rams skill positions versus the Eagles. The Eagles defense is the reason that they are 8-2 at this point in the season.
Yeah.
And this is a game that can definitely come back to bite me because Stafford can just go completely nutso. in this one, but I think it'll be tough because I don't think Cup and Nakua can separate against if you man up against them. I think they're more zone beater guys. So if the Eagles pass them off, do a good job bearing on blocking on them, I think locking in on them, I think they'll shut them down a decent amount. So that's my fantasy picks for this week. What you got, JKruse?
I'm going to stay in the same game with the Colts Lions, and I'm going to pick a guy that I bought earlier this year, and he went off in that game. I think he had like 3 catches for like 120 yards and like 2 touchdowns. My boy Alec Pierce, the Indianapolis Colts, their leading receiver, by the way. Alec Pierce is having an incredible year. That's right.
I noticed Pittman like this
Yeah,
year. I know Downs has been pretty good too. But
yeah, he dropped that touchdown last week. That was really funny. Anyway, Alec Pierce. I'm going to buy him against the Lions. And listen, him and AR's going to chuck it deep to him a few times. I think they'll hit on at least one of them. And he did play really well last week against the Jets, kind of like we mentioned. So I'm going to ride the Colts train. I think Alec Pierce is going to have a nice day against the Lions, who, they can score a lot, but they do have those games every once in a while where they'll give up like 27, 28 points. I think this could be that game, but they'll still win like 42, 28. You know what I mean? And I'm going to sell Ramondre Stevenson this week, going up against the Dolphins. The Patriots in Miami has forever been a curse for New England. So I'm just going to stick with that. I think Ramondre Stevenson, I think most of the Patriots are going to struggle in that game against the Dolphins, who, slowly but surely, don't look now, but the Miami Dolphins
they're creeping
back up. I've always said
terrible AFC
in a terrible AFC East, and I've always said, I think I've said on this podcast, but they're always my backup team when the Bears inevitably suck, but they actually still have a worse record than the Bears, I think, technically. So anyway, everything sucks this year. And with that being said, I think that's a great transition into the recap.
It is. So transitioning just straight into the game that everybody wants to hear about from people sitting on here.
Rams Dolphins last Monday night, the holdover.
Sure, we'll start there. Basically, the Rams O-line was awful in that game. Stafford had no time to throw, and the Dolphins, they didn't play particularly well. Tyreek Hill kind of got back on track, but it was more the Rams O-line just selling the entire game than anything else that any unit did. And then we come to this week, yesterday. We'll save that one for last. So the Bengals, they were rallying against the Chargers. They really had a chance to come back. Burrow, what else can you ask of this team anymore from Burrow? Even from Jamar Chase. T. Higgins had a nice game. Their defense is just so ridiculously bad. They cannot stop a wet paper bag from blowing down the field. Which, that shouldn't even blow down the field. But there they are. The Chargers' offense looked good, but it was more the Bengals' defense just sucking. Then the Bills. Talk about the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. Josh Allen, this is his MVP year. And I think that this is the game that won it for him. Or at least put him in the driver's seat and should leave him in the driver's seat.
Is he the favorite? Keep talking. I'm really
might be after Lamar.
He should be, because Lamar's had a couple stinkers this year so far. And Josh Allen really hasn't had a bad game all year.
I don't think so.
But the Bills, they ended the Chiefs' 15-game win streak.
There's the Texans in the back.
Yeah.
It is Josh Allen. Right behind him is Lamar Jackson.
Okay. What are the odds on that?
Josh Allen plus 160, Lamar Jackson plus 180. A little bit of a drop off than Jared Goff at plus 550. Even more of a drop off, Patrick Mahomes.
That's insane that he's still number 4.
And it's still so. It seems like it's going to be down to Allen Jackson and Jared Goff.
Who would it even be over Mahomes? I don't even think I can think of another person who would be close.
They have right behind Mahomes is Hurts, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Brock Purdy, Joe Burrow, Jane Daniels, Stroud, etc.
Yeah, Daniels is kind of falling off after the injury.
Yeah, I guess it's not that crazy, but there's no quarterback stats outside of those top 3 that are really going crazy this year.
Goff's 5 picks probably derailed his chances.
Yeah, that lost him the MVP race, unfortunately, because it would have been amazing to see him win that. And then the Eagles, they come back to beat the Commanders. Saquon, he ran for 2 touchdowns late in that game. And it was just, the Eagles are finding how they're going to win this year. It kind of took them a while. They didn't look great at the beginning of the year. But they found, hand that ball off to Saquon. Don't make Jalen Hurts carry the load because he can't. He doesn't have people to push him this year as much. Yeah. And their defense is figuring it out, like Howard was talking about earlier. They're physical. They're going to beat you up. Yeah. And that's why I think they're in the picks this week, actually. So we'll talk about that. And then my Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love just continue the ownership continues. The Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears. Let me tell you a little story. They have not beaten the Green Bay Packers since 2018.
Yep.
2018. Jordan is just stunned silence over there.
This was me.
I don't blame you.
Yesterday.
Like, because the Bears should have won that game. And they were in position to do it. They lost on a blocked field goal. The Packers did not play well in this game. Jordan Love has not looked good since he got injured. Well, he hasn't looked bad, but he hasn't looked like he should.
That pick,
like we're paying him to look.
That pick he threw was one of the worst. I mean, he's thrown a lot of like weirdly terrible picks this year, but that one in particular, when he's like standing upright, Tucker Kraft is wide open in the flat, and he just sails it over his head, not even close.
Yeah, Jordan Love, he's just, I feel like he has the yips or something. Like, he just can't settle down fully. Like, I mean, everybody talks about, like, oh, Jordan Love's so cool back in the pocket, but he just has, like, these two, I can't use the term that I want to on this podcast. So, I'm trying to think of a substitute one, but just stupid moments where you're like, what are you doing? Like, just that. It's like, dude, you have all the arm talent in the world, and you just managed to do something like that. Like, just mind-bogglingly terrible decisions. Like, kind of out of the Anthony Richardson playbook. Like, they aren't that different of players. If Anthony Richardson, like, figures it out.
Oh, man. Some Packers fans would have you hanged for that stuff.
And maybe they should.
Because all the other ones are comparing him to Brett Favre. And I'm like, please, stop.
No. We talk about the
Stop
play
that.
styles kind of resemble each other with Favre. And
The results don't.
Yeah, the results don't. And, I mean, the Anthony Richardson comp, I really don't feel bad making that. Richardson's a better runner.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I sort of agree with you, but there are Packers fans who have you hanged for
Oh, I'm
saying-
sure they would. And keep in mind, this is from, like, a diehard loyal Packers fan.
You're right, yeah.
I love Jordan Love. I don't mind that we paid him the money that we did. I'm just making what I believe is a fair comparison. Packers did not deserve to win that game yesterday.
Yeah.
Their edge rushers are just bad. Losing Preston Smith, while probably didn't hurt us too bad, but Lucas Van Ness has shown absolutely nothing since he came out of college. That pick, I know I've told the story before, but just about swerved in oncoming traffic when I heard that pick get made. It just, Packers drafting, man. That's what it is. So, I mean, we got to see. The Packers, they don't have, in my eyes, what is truly a quality win yet. Like, they've lost to the Vikings. They've lost to the Lions. Like, they haven't beat the teams that they have to truly beat. So this week is going to be a good test for them.
Tweet of the weekend from a Bears fan. No, the Packers don't own the Bears. Aaron Rodgers doesn't own the Bears. George McCaskey owns the Bears, and that's far worse. He's kind of right. I mean, what's funny is like we brought in, we fired Waldron, obviously. Then we bring in Thomas Brown, the OC. I think he was the coordinator, passing game coordinator. And I think he called it, honestly, like a pretty solid game. We were using Caleb's legs a lot more, something a Bears QB hasn't done since way back in the days of Justin Fields. And he looked comfortable. On that last drive, a couple of those throws he made was like, that's why you draft Caleb Williams, right? I mean, that was incredible. But then at the end of the game, we were talking about this before we started. You got 30 seconds left. Clock's running, but you could still line up, get a few more yards for a guy.
Those are speed outs.
Exactly. Like, Roshan Johnson can't be stopped.
Yeah.
That man cannot be stopped. He's getting 3-4 yards a pop every single time, just lowering his head and falling forward. When you got a kicker who already doesn't have a great leg to begin with, right? Now listen, like, is the game Cairo Santos' fault? No. I think Eberflus in particular, with that decision, and then with the Packers, like, we stop the Packers, we get the ball back. Thomas Brown, his only bad part of the game was when he didn't just keep running power when we were up 19-14. Just keep giving the ball to Roshan. Just pound it down their throat. They try to do these screens and these stupid little throws to Keenan Allen that weren't working. And then we punt the ball back to the Packers, and like 3 plays later, they're in the end zone. And like that play where I was texting one of my Packer fan friends. I was texting one of my the Watson play where I was texting one of my Packer fan friends, and he's like, "Dude, I think Eberflus is gonna stay the coach, man. They're about to win." I'm like, "No, you don't understand. We're getting into the game, part of the game that is simply why he should get fired. His 2-minute defense is dreadful." And on the second play of the, or maybe it was the first play of the drive, Jalen Johnson falls down guarding Watson, and Jordan Love makes a not great throw. Christian Watson won that game for the Packers yesterday, pretty much. He goes down, makes an incredible catch, doesn't get touched, and runs 60 yards, and that was the drive, basically. And so, once again, a Matt Eberflus defense can't come up in the clutch. It's just sad. It's just sad, man. Again, the other thing, too, is like since the Commanders game happened, I can't even be that mad. It's just, I'm apathetic. No emotion. That's just what it's like being a Chicago sports fan right now. And I'm just hoping and praying that they sell the freaking team and get somebody in there that actually knows freaking ball. Maybe Steve Ballmer. Can Steve Ballmer, like,
I will
can
love
he,
that.
like, can he take on another team? I don't know.
He can afford it.
I don't know,
He
man.
can afford
It sucks. It all freaking sucks. Top down. It starts at the top. It really does start at the top. And I know that's like a cop-out thing to say for a bad team, but like the Bears organization is bad at the top, and we've known that forever. And it started with the firing of Lovie Smith in 2012. How the heck do you fire a guy that goes 10-6 and took you to a Super Bowl just a few years earlier?
Mm-hmm.
And that year in particular, we would have made the playoffs if the Packers would have beaten the Vikings in the last year. That was the year that Adrian Peterson ran for like 2,000 yards or something. I remember that last week forever. And so, no, it's just sad. It's just sad. Let's move on. Let's move on, please.
We're in the picks this week. Another team that's really sad is the Browns. But no one feels bad for the Browns.
No.
They are playing on Thursday night at home against the Steelers on Prime. Me and Howard, we were dogging on Jordan for making the pick that he did.
That's
Howard
right.
and I both took the Steelers. I don't think that we have to guess too much why. But Jordan, you took the Browns.
Took the Browns. This is a visualizing game. This is a principles game. Browns are going to win this game. Again, I don't think it's going to happen, but the NFL is weird like that sometimes. And can you guys explain to me why this spread is the only thing to have? You can't explain that, can you?
Maybe they think the Browns defense can limit the Steelers offense because they're predicated on deep shots to George Pickens and stuff like that.
Right.
The
Now,
Steelers are just they get all the breaks, man.
They get it done.
It's the Tomlin way, man. I have no idea how he can lose this game to the Browns with Jameis Winston. So I'm taking the Steelers.
I don't either, and this is probably all going to blow up in my face, and I'm going to see Jameis' stupid face, like, after he throws his fourth pick, be like, what? So, yeah, maybe the Browns, but, again, this is just based on principles. It's based on the fact that the NFL is a weird freaking league.
And then we go into Howard Seahawks. They're at home
That's right.
against the division-leading and current, I believe, number 2 seed in the NFC, Arizona Cardinals.
That's a weekend.
No, gotta be 3 because Lions Eagles should be
Eagles. Oh, right. Okay, number 3 seed then, which is crazy. But anyway, Howard, take us away on why your Seahawks are going to win the game.
Yeah. JKruse, you couldn't fight the demon with the team that owns you over the last 6 years, but
That's right.
we overcame our demon in the 49ers, beat them for the first time since 2021. The biggest thing for me is the defense because back-to-back weeks, both ahead and after the bye, you went against the Rams and the Niners who have owned you offensively in McVay and Shanahan. The performance against Shanahan, we only allowed 17 points. That was the first time we allowed less than 20 to the Niners since 2018.
Wow.
When Nick Mullins was starting again.
Whoa.
So basically, we haven't stopped them when they've had competent quarterback play in the better half of the last decade. So for Mike McDonald to get this performance, and we've had a lot of shuffling on the defensive side, like I talked about it before the pod last week with JKruse. Our 2 off-ball linebackers who we had coming into the year are no longer on the team, and Jerome Baker and Tyrone Dodson, who we cut last week. Now it's Ernest Jones and Tyree Snyder, rookie we drafted. We got Abe Lucas back to start at right tackle this week. The defense is playing better. Devin Winston at the impact play. Gino clutch drive. He has 10 game-winning drives since he became our starter since 2022, which is third most in the league, by the way.
Jeez.
Yeah, man, it's coming together. And that was kind of a must-win game, which is crazy to say about against a team that we haven't beaten in 3 years. So to get that win, the Cardinals, they have a very explosive offense. Kyler Murray is playing amazing. Their running game is amazing. Trey McBride is one of the best tight ends in the league already. Marv can go off, but this is another game. I'm not going to say it's must win, but hey, if the defense can keep building, their defense is not good, so we should be able to score points off of them. And they obviously don't have a Nick Bosa as a pass rush, so I think the offensive line should do a solid job as well. Connor Williams retired our center, and he's had snap problems. We've had snap problems all year, but I think it's a game we can win, mainly on the defensive play.
Yeah, you said it. The Cardinals' defense. I am taking the Cardinals to win, but their defense is what scares me in this game. Like, it is not going to be their offense's fault that they lose if they do. Their defense has looked shaky, and I mean, I even took the Seahawks as my bye pick for fantasy. Like, I think that they're going to have a good offensive day. I just think the Cardinals are going to have a better one.
Yeah, the resurgence of James Conner has been really, really fun to watch. He really, these last few years, I mean, he's really put together kind of a second act of his career, which has been really nice to see. And I think Kyler kind of is doing the same thing too. Like, he's putting together a great second act of his career. I think he's kind of carrying his team in a lot of different ways. And then we were talking before the pod about Trey McBride. Yeah, this guy's unreal. I mean, he's unreal. This offense is great. This sort of is another principal game for me because I'm thinking the Seahawks coming off of a big win against the Niners. They put their heart and soul into that one. They still only won by 3, given the fact that the Niners have so many injuries, and we're about to talk about that in a second too. So I'm going to go Cardinals. Again, it's not a slight against the Seahawks. I think the spot just calls for a Cardinals win here.
Yeah, and then we go. The 49ers are heading to Titletown this week. They got to play my Packers.
Oh, it's in Green Bay too.
Yeah, which does make me feel a little bit better, but I don't even want to think about the 49ers playing the Packers because we always know how it goes. Like, the Packers, they have some amazing plays. You're like, they're going to win this game. And then just some absolutely mind-meltingly, incredibly stupid thing happens. Usually on special teams, not always.
Yeah.
Usually on special teams, and then they lose. Our special teams have been much better this year. And the 49ers are not the 49ers of the past.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked about before the pod, Debo, he's not able to carry a wide receiver room. Howard, you call him more of a gadget guy.
He is, absolutely. He's not a traditional receiver. Like I said, Jawan Jennings is probably the best receiver in that receiver room.
Yeah, especially with Ayuk hurt.
He's clutch. Like he makes all the plays on third down, and like like you said, the gadget plays are not working anymore for Shanahan and offense.
Yeah, the Packers defense, they match up surprisingly well in my eyes with this 49ers team because our pass rush doesn't have to be amazing because outside of Trent Williams, the 49ers offensive line is not that good.
Yeah.
If Rashawn Gary can just get going a little bit, like praying to God, please, Rashawn Gary, we're paying you $20-some million this year. Please do something. He has like 3 sacks on the year. He's been incredibly disappointing. But then our secondary has been pretty strong outside of our like second outside corner spot opposite of Jair. That's been a little bit of a rough point. But our safeties have been good. We can cover the underside of the field. I think we can win this game. And I say this every time the 49ers play the 49ers play the Packers. But it just, this one feels different, I guess. If Jordan Love can avoid the stupid mistakes, we'll win this game.
This is a game where I would feel much more confident, like I said before the pod, much more confident a couple weeks ago. You guys' pass rush is a problem. But like McCaffrey hasn't looked super explosive since coming back. I wonder if Mason will get more carries in this one. Like I said, this is not the Niners of the past. I mean, we got some of the Niners fan bases calling for Shanahan's job. So I mean,
That's wild.
It's not great. It's not going great in San Francisco right now. And I'm just gonna take the Packers to beat it. They won some ugly games, some games that we said they should have lost so far this year. But the 49ers do not inspire a lot of confidence right now. I'm taking Green Bay.
Yeah, it's just injuries, man. It's just injuries, and I don't think their defense was playing up to its potential anyway, even when they were a little bit healthier. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Packers, as much as I hate to say it. As much as it is like 49ers always beat the Packers. This is not the same 49ers, like you guys mentioned, not only just because it's a different year, but it's also, like we said, all these injuries. George Kittle may not play. Nick Bosa is likely out. I think that's the big key there. So Ward's out. I mean, that's another tragedy in and of itself. So, yeah, things aren't going well for the Niners. I think the Packers are going to get over them this time. Who knows if the Niners even make the playoffs at this point? I mean, they're really going to struggle. It's going to be interesting to see. So, yeah, unfortunately.
I think play the Bills after this.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when you're first place team. You play a first place schedule. So now, so unfortunately, give me the Packers.
Yeah, and then we have Eagles. They're going to LA to play the Rams. This one I didn't have to think too hard about. The Rams' offensive line sucks, and the Eagles' defensive line is still one of the best in the league. Their defense is one of the best in the league. So, and Howard, you had said something about it during fantasy football, like Kupp and Nakua not being able to beat man as well. This one I don't have to think too hard about. Saquon's looked phenomenal for the Eagles. Like, I don't think he's going to have too much trouble moving the ball. Eagles.
Yeah, their defense is pretty unreal at all three levels. And I think they'll be able to move the ball easily with one of the better offensive lines in the league against the Rams defensive line, which is probably their best unit on defense. You'll be able to mitigate that pretty easily. So give me the Eagles.
Yeah, they're playing their best football right now. I think that's easy to say about the Eagles. They've won 6 games in a row. And I think all year we've been waiting to see if there was a team in the NFC we legitimately believe could hang with Detroit. Well, I think Philly is showing that they could be that team. And if they do play in the playoffs, man, that would be pretty insane. And I'm also, real quick, I'm looking at the rest of the Philly schedule. To LA this week, a game we all think they're going to win. At Baltimore next week.
That's a loss.
They could win.
Not a confirmed loss.
They could win that
They
one.
could definitely
Right?
win that.
And then here's the last 5 games. Home Carolina, win. Home Pittsburgh, I don't give a crap what anybody says. They're winning that game. At Washington, it's a noon kickoff. They should win that game.
Should.
They could lose, but they should win the game. Home versus the Cowboys, win. Home versus the Giants, win. They're going 13-4. I think at minimum they're going 13-4.
The Ravens.
But they could very easily go 11-5. No, 6.
Yeah, they could easily go 15-2. I think
There's 4 losses.
No.
No, like 13-4 as their total record.
You said 11-6.
Yeah.
They only have 2 losses right now.
I could see them losing to the Commanders. I could see them losing to
The Steelers.
the Steelers, the
See, I
Ravens. So that's 3 right there.
I'm saying I think they're going to be favored.
And then I think that,
but the Ravens game.
their seeding is
And I
going
still
to
think
be
they could win
locked.
that one. So
Yeah.
I think their seeding is going to be locked, and they lose to the Giants in Week 18.
Oh, that would be crazy.
well,
That
I mean,
Which it doesn't matter,
that
but
kind of
like
defeats the point of the conversation. But like,
it does. But if we're talking straight record, then
right.
they're gonna lose to Danny DeVito.
yeah,
We'll talk about the
Tommy
Ravens.
DeVito.
Oh, Tommy DeVito.
Shout out to
Let's
it's always sunny in Philadelphia fans out there.
We'll talk about the Ravens in a second, but like the Ravens, their offense got shut down by the Steelers defense. So the Eagles defense, if they keep
They could have scored more, but Justin Tucker.
that's true. But still, they only scored 18.
And they only gave the ball to Derrick Henry 13 times, which is just a travesty.
they're figuring out
granted-
that is not how to win.
What do you mean?
Like, you don't win games by not giving Derrick Henry.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Which they should have won last year after the
Yeah,
well, for sure. And I understand he's getting a little bit older, and you don't want to make him too tired for the playoffs, but 13, God, you got to get him at least near 20,
Yeah, that's true.
if not more, every single game. He's built to withstand that.
Yeah.
And even though he's getting older, he's still built to take that kind of.
So I think just take it straight in. Ravens are at the Chargers on Monday night.
The Hard Bowl.
Yeah, it is the
Hard
Hard
Bowl.
Bowl.
Hard Bowl.
We haven't had one of those since the Super Bowl, right?
I think so.
Probably not, yeah.
Maybe in the regular season. But like,
Yeah. Back then, Jim Harbaugh was coaching the 49ers. That was 11 years ago? Or was that 10?
That was 2013.
Yeah. So 11 years. This is the first Harbaugh in 11 years. I have the Ravens winning this game. We've been talking about the Ravens. Their offense just makes so many laughable mistakes. Like Zay Flowers, there was like a 30-yard game that bounces off his chest. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Because that could have been a field goal if Justin Tucker could make a 30-yard field goal this year. That would have been at least a field goal right there. Like, the Ravens' offense should be so much better. They're realizing that you're going to lose if you don't give Derrick Henry the ball. If you don't run it, they're going to run all over the Chargers this week.
Ravens. John over Jim every day of the week. Screw Jim Harbaugh. They tried to blow that game to the Bengals on Sunday night. And shout out Evan McPherson. It was a bad day for kickers.
It was.
And now that being said, they've had an unbelievably good year up until that point.
Yeah.
And it all kind of started with Kyrie Fairbairn last Sunday night. I mean, he's basically the reason they lost that game, and it bled over into this Sunday. So I'm going to pick the Ravens. Talking about bad kickers, Justin Tucker has been maybe the worst of them all so far. But I'm always John over Jim, so give me the Ravens. And it'll probably be a Ravens home game, in a way. There'll probably be more Ravens fans there than the Chargers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the Chargers because I took the Chargers last week against the Bengals. I don't know.
Yeah, you did.
The Ravens are scaring me. We thought early on this would be a team that hey, we thought last year would be the end of their run, and they started out hot this year. Now they're losing games where it's like, man, they just cannot get over themselves. You talked about them dropping passes that should have been caught, like Rashad Bateman had one a couple weeks ago where he hit him in the helmet. I don't know. I feel like the Chargers, this is a game where Harbaugh, I feel like the better coach is Jim Harbaugh. John Harbaugh.
Really?
Listen, John Harbaugh, okay, Ravens fans have been, and maybe it's like a fatigue thing because he's been there for so long, but people are calling for his late game management because they blow so many leads in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they do.
They blow a lot of games in the fourth quarter. They lose these divisional games. I don't know, man. And Harbaugh, you know what he's going to do. He's going to try to play defense and run the ball. And this is a Ravens team. It's going to be difficult to run the ball, but you can definitely throw it. And we see Ladd McConkey having a good rookie season. Herbert's playing out of his mind this year. I think this game the Chargers can win. Risky one because this is back-to-back, not only primetime games, but against pretty good passing offenses in general. But give me the Chargers.
All right. Hey, the Chargers worked for you last week, so I'm not going to give you crap over it. And I think they very well could win that game. Like you broke it down, they very well could win that game. Now, our holdover tonight, we are all picking the Texans over the Cowboys, that Texas State matchup. Cowboys suck. There's nothing else to say about them. Dak is probably out for the season, so this is not even worth considering anymore. They will not be on our slate anymore unless they're somehow in a primetime game.
Oh, they'll be on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they're definitely going to get thrown in there a couple more times.
Yeah, they shouldn't be, but they will be. Now, stuff that we are excited to watch, college basketball.
That's right. And what an interesting week last week was Florida won at Florida State, right? Did you hear about what happened with the Florida head coach? And it's weird because that's how he's played this week.
Yeah, there's like a huge scandal, Title IX scandal against that, isn't there?
Yes, that's a much better way to put it than I said last week.
Sure.
Ryan put it much more eloquently. I got into the details. But they did win at Florida State. They've got this player named Walter Clayton Jr., who was one of the stars of the NCAA tournament last year. Well, I guess they only played one game, but he's a scorer. He's an absolute walking bucket. They went in, still won by 14 at Florida State. I should have looked it up, but I didn't see any memes from the Florida State crowd. They were probably exquisite.
Oh, I wish that our dog pound was going. We have this one guy, I don't know who it is, but he makes the most out-of-pocket signs.
Did you see the one against the Miners?
Yeah, dude. We cannot put them on the board.
You don't even need to say what it was.
Yeah.
Like, we are not allowed to put those signs on the board.
Yeah.
Like, they're that bad. I would love to see what he made for that game.
That's crazy.
But, continue.
Game number 2, the Purdue Boilermakers surprised me and most of America by not only beating Alabama, they kind of ran through them, honestly. And Trey Kaufman-Renn in particular, he's one of these guys that, like I said last week, he looks like a football player playing basketball. Doesn't really seem like he has a lot of natural skill, but he's just super athletic, right? He goes in and has a huge game against Alabama. They win at home in Mackey Arena. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of his. And Ryan, that guy Malik Renew from Indiana. He's number 5. He's kind of got like he's the same kind of way, but they both just find ways to get it done. They're
Purdue
super
just finds guys like that. And they never seem to have like crazy talented, besides like Zach Edey and Jaden Ivey. Those are the only two that I felt are truly talented. They just have like the annoying white guys that can shoot, like Fletcher Lawyer and
Braden Smith.
Braden Smith. That's just Purdue's formula, and then they just have the crazy athletic guy.
How's Jaden Ivey doing in the NBA, by the way?
He's doing pretty good this year. And he didn't play a lot. There was a lot of controversy with him not playing because of Monty Williams not playing for some reason last year. He's doing pretty good. Business in general doing pretty good this year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
final game of the slate, we talked about it last week, A&M at Ohio State. And I said last week, listen, A&M lost to UCF. They're going to be looking for a bounce back. They did get the 14-point win at home against Ohio State. But what was interesting, A&M shot 40 free throws. 40.
that's crazy.
40 free throws, and Ohio State shot 22, which is also a lot. And if that's a lot, just think about what 40 is. I didn't get to watch the game because I was at volleyball, but
how long was that game?
I don't know. I don't know when it finished, but I would have been, if I was watching that game live, I probably would have been pulling my hair out and throwing stuff because that is an unreal amount of free throws to be taking. And so, listen, I'm not too discouraged about Ohio State from that. I think, again, going on the road, clearly the refs were very trigger happy in that one. 3 big games coming up this week. Again, I'm trying to find them all on the same day. It's just not going to work out this week. Illinois and Alabama. Ryan's Illinois Fighting Illini. Haven't really had a big game yet, so what can we really draw from them yet? I think this will be interesting, and kind of like Ohio State last week, They're going up against a team that just lost, a team that is desperate for a big win. But this guy, Will Riley for Illinois, he reclassified to this year's class, and he's been putting up some pretty solid numbers on early on. I mean, is this a game we should expect them to compete in? I mean, what heading into the season, I guess, what are the thoughts about Illinois? Because we really haven't had a chance to talk about them yet.
Yeah, so compete for sure. I mean, this is an Illinois team. I couldn't believe how low they were picked in the Big Ten standings. Like, that was
Where were they picked?
like 7th or something like that.
Oh, really?
It was insulting as well. Like, for how good of a coach Brad Underwood is, and say what you want about, like, some people don't like his style, they don't like how he conducts himself on the court. The man wins games. Like, that's all I'm going to give you. The man wins games. The Illinois roster, admittedly, I am very behind. I'm still in football mode. Tomislav, Croatian names, here we go.
Tomislav.
Ivicic? We're going to go with that.
Sounds right.
Ivicic has looked, he's been really nice at the forward position for us. I mean, yeah, this will be the first game that really tells us anything about Illinois. Because, I mean, they walked all over EIU. They beat Oakland soundly. We can't learn a whole lot out of that. This is kind of like SIU's game against Oklahoma State. Like, it's the first one that really teaches you anything about a team. And so, I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't think they're going to win, but I think that they'll keep it at least within 10, if not within like 5. I think it'll be a pretty close game.
Yeah, it should be nice. No, it's interesting. It's technically a road. I mean, it's a road game, but it's not. It's in Birmingham. It's still Alabama, but like, no, it's not on campus. I hate those kind of games. Just play it on campus. It'd be so much cooler. Next game, Baylor, a team that I think we've talked about like 3 different times already because they've had a lot of big games. They're going to play in St. John's this week, and I do want to confirm where this game is being played. But I'm mad at myself because last week I forgot to bring up that Richard Pitino and Rick coached against each other on Sunday, the father and son.
Oh.
And Rick still has it. Rick Pitino is, for those who don't know, like college basketball in general, Rick Pitino might be the greatest college basketball coach outside of John Wooden, probably.
No, honestly, I'm going to give it to him. Like, Wooden played.
I mean, he had Kareem, so that's kind of.
He had Kareem, and he also played in like the era where freshmen couldn't play, and also a segregated era too for part of his coaching tenure. So like, I think Rick Pitino legitimately should be called the greatest college coach of all time if you can look past all the controversy.
Right. Yeah. That's
the hard part to do with him.
Yes, for sure. But in terms of like in-game coaching, there is nobody better. And it looks like he's got St. John's headed in the right direction. This game will be played, drum roll please, in Bahamas. Ooh. Interesting. Okay. So that'll be fun to watch, and I'm sure they'll have the nice little island shirts on, whatever you call it. It's not Hawaiian because they're not Hawaiian. You guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, little beach fits. On the side. I always like that in the Maui Invitational too.
Yeah.
When they go to Hawaii, that's always pretty cool. Last game, Duke and Arizona, two teams that are in wounded animal mode. Duke lost to Kentucky in the Champions Classic. Now listen, Cooper Flagg, he's the real deal for sure. But the rest of the team, I'm not really sure if they have a point guard really. He kind of is their point guard, and that kind of killed them in that game against Kentucky because he had a couple bad turnovers late. And then probably the most surprising result of the weekend outside of Purdue and Bama, was Arizona going to Wisconsin and getting crushed, 103-88. And again, we will talk about a free throw disparity. Wisconsin had a guy named John Ryan.
Holy
Tanji. Sure. Yeah. Let's go with Tanji.
Yeah, I like Tanji.
John Tanji. He shot 22 free throws by himself in the game. Now he finished with 41. So I mean, listen, he was 8 of 14 from the floor, 4 of 6 from 3. 21 of 22 from the line. Oh, that's crazy. Wisconsin shot 47 free throws. Arizona shot 40. So talk about a game that probably lasted forever. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad I didn't watch that. I mean, it was probably exciting in a way, I guess.
Not really, because action can't even get going. Like, if teams shoot 81 free throws in a game.
Listen to this. Arizona took 74 shots from the floor. Wisconsin took 52. They took 22 less shots. But here's the difference. Wisconsin went 12 of 27 from 3. And Arizona went 4 of 23 from 3. And then obviously there's the free throw.
That's not sustainable.
What an insane game.
That makes me feel a lot better about that loss.
So listen, I don't know who I'd pick in this game. I root for Arizona because screw Duke forever. Nobody likes Duke, and for good reason. I also want to look at where this game's being played too, because it's probably not where I think it is. It's in Arizona. That'll be fun. That'll be an interesting one. So those are your three big college basketball games this weekend. The first one's on Wednesday, Baylor St. John's on Thursday, then Duke Arizona is on Friday. Let's move over to the NBA. I'm gonna blow my nose real quick. Ugh.
Dude, how about the Warriors?
Dude, they're freaking sick, boys.
I
They're
love
so
it.
bad. I mean, they never really were down, but they're bad. And they still might trade for somebody soon.
I know Pajemski is getting floated around hard in trade rumors, which I don't want him to trade him
Yeah.
because he is such a cornerstone that they could build off of, or at least if not a cornerstone, like a guy that'll make $20 million a year, and that'll be a major role player.
Do you think I would be really stupid to secretly but responsibly or something on the Warriors to win the ship?
The futures, definitely. Well, not even the futures, just this year.
I'm interested to know how much you could win off it. Where's their odds?
That's fine.
Where they are in the standings and their history probably gives them a lot of cushion.
It does.
Versus being a true underdog that came out of the blue.
Whoa.
$100 wager will return 66.
I got him at plus 1,700.
What's that?
I have it plus 22.
Okay.
They're below the
So it's 25, 22. It depends on where you look, but it's around plus 1,500.
below the Mavericks.
So what you're saying is it's pretty good value right now.
Dude, that's crazy
I
value.
would take
They're
that.
25-1 on FanDuel.
Dude, ESPN Bet has him at plus 2,500. Well, that's 25 to 1.
Okay, well, before the game tonight, you know what I would be doing. All right, let's go into
$20 bucks. I'm gonna hit that one too.
Howard. Take away the NBA. What are the three biggest headlines from this last week?
Yeah, for two, I'm going to spin back on two teams that I mentioned when I was buying stock before the season. And they're third in their respective conferences. And we can all sing the song. You guys know the song, right?
What?
Orlando Magic.
No.
I
don't know somebody who would.
Oh,
I don't know.
Okay, that didn't hit like I thought it was going to hit. But anyway, they lost Paolo Banchero very early in the season. He's going to be out for some months. And they are now, we talked about it last week, there were only two teams above 500 in the East. Now there's three. And that's the Orlando Magic, who are 8-6. Franz Wagner has stepped in Paulo's absence. Like I said, they're hanging their hat on defense. And they are not allowing teams to get over 100 points, which is customary in the NBA these days. So they are really bearing it down. They are locking in. And when Paulo gets back, that just adds another element to this team to where they can, if they continue to play this way offensively, which they were terrible in that facet last year, they can hang around the East. I don't think this third seed is a fluke necessarily because of the other teams, which I'll get to later. But in the West, the third seed right now is the Houston Rockets.
Wow.
And they are flying around.
They destroyed the Bulls on
Saturday,
Saturday,
I think.
They destroyed them. Yeah.
They are just they are so deep and they have so much young talent that they are kind of meshing completely. One night it's Albert Şengün who's going off. The next night is Jalen Green. The next night is Jabari Smith Jr. You have Tari Eason and Ahmed Thompson coming off the bench. Defensively, they are unreal. Ahmed Thompson, some of the clips of him teleporting down the floor after a steal or poking the ball away is insane. But they are playing really well right now, and for the first time since the Harden era ended in Houston, it looks like they might be a playoff team. We'll see how they keep
Keep it that long.
I think so.
Well, because Steven Silas was the coach for 2 years, and they were
They are terrible.
Gosh, what a forgettable era.
Yeah, but for the first time since that Harden era, they are humming and they're playing really well under Ime Udoka. Now back to the East, a team who is extremely disappointing for various reasons. But after Joel Embiid's injury to start the season, the suspension, Paul George was hurt to start the year. He's now back. Embiid came back from 2 games. He hasn't been the same. In Maxi's absence since his injury, you had Jared McCain come up and be really good as an off-ball shooter and really just playing extremely well as a rookie. And they're still only have 2 wins this season. Embiid has not looked the same, like I said, to start the year. Paul George has had flashes, but he hasn't been extremely good. I mean, it's just an extremely disappointing start. Embiid's doubtful in their next game with the illness or something that. It's there's not a lot of light at the end of the tunnel.
There isn't.
Even when Maxey gets back.
there isn't, but at the same time, the East is so bad that like they could still be a playoff team even if they only win 32 games.
Yeah.
Like I think that the lowest, this is probably going to be the lowest threshold for playoff teams that we've seen in decades for the East. I mean, none of those teams look any good outside of the Celtics,
And the Cavs.
the Cavs, and we'll throw the Magic in that conversation too because they've looked good, like you were just saying. But the East is just so historically bad. I saw a tweet. It was talking about like, why does the NBA feel like it's in like 2016 again?
Yeah.
Because the Warriors are the 1 seed in the West. The Rockets are hanging up at the top.
See, I was okay with that.
The Cavs are at the top of the East. The Celtics are like, they're not an ascendant team anymore, but they're right at the top too. Like, it just feels like such a throwback. And honestly, I've missed that.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, that was such a golden era for the NBA. Like, having it kind of come back to that and having like stars. I just love this Warriors team because like, and a lot of people don't, I understand, but it's just so fun to watch how they've been able to turn from like the dynasty that they were and just, they're not in it anymore, but it's hard to say that they're out of it at the same time.
Right.
Because
like Steph is still there, being crazy. Draymond is still there. Steve Kerr is still there. So the foundational pieces I think are still there outside of Clay, but they're looks like they're hitting on their young talent. We brought in additions like Buddy Hield and Anthony Melton.
You feel like they could add somebody at the deadline too?
They
right?
can't.
I just don't know
I don't know who it would be. though.
that's the thing.
For a long time, I thought it was going to be Larry Marketing, but he just got extended, so you can't trade him this year. So you have to wait a year. So I don't know who it would be this season. And obviously, in the NBA, guys become available with the change of
Sabonis?
the hour. So
And
I don't know.
The Kings are good though, right?
they're not that good. They're
They're
60.
They're like playoff. I mean, they're in the play-in right
They're
now.
like- They just signed DeMar, so I don't think they would offload Sabonis yet. It would have to be, that would be pretty
I
shocking.
don't know what kind of return the Bulls would give, but like
Levine.
like Vucevic doesn't.
Warriors don't
I don't-
want
Has
him.
he still been playing good? Because he had started off really well.
Yeah, I mean he fills up the stat sheet. Like he's a pretty like efficient shooter. Like he can shoot threes. He can. Problem is he really lacks on defense. Defensively, he's not great. But in terms of like looking at the Warriors and their lineup, like what they need is a guy who can score from the inside
I don't think
consistently.
they want to though.
Well, I know they don't want to, but
They're not even playing Kevon Looney anymore.
I think they would take a wing for sure. Like it would be like a 3 or a 4 who could kind of stretch the floor where you leave Draymond at the 5. Draymond's playing crazy, amazing defensively. I don't know.
How good is it looking that they didn't do a sign and trade for Paul George? They've got to be like,
oh,
thank
geniuses
God.
right now. Yeah.
They have to be so relieved right now that they didn't do that.
Before we end the segment, gotta mention the Cavs are still 15-0. They'll play the Celtics tomorrow as part of the NBA Cup, which is also started in the league. But we'll see how long. I think they play the Celtics tomorrow, and then they play them a couple like December 2nd or something like that. So we'll see if they'll still be undefeated by the next time we do the pod. But shout out to the Cavs for still keeping it going.
Yeah, shout out to the Cavs, man. I hate seeing it, but and like Ryan said, this is a nice throwback, and I do feel like the Cavs eventually are going to hit a little bit of a rut where the fact that they don't really play much defense is going to hurt them. But yeah, shout out to the Cavs, man. It's nice for that city to have some new life outside of LeBron. This is the first time the Cavs have been good with LeBron not being there since like the '90s.
They were good last year.
Well, yeah, I mean like
Top
this
of the-
era with like Donovan Mitchell era, right? Like,
Okay.
but before that.
I think it's just been injuries. Like last year, like they were good, but like Mobley was out. Garland had a bunch of got hit in the eye and a whole bunch of stuff. Like this is where we're all finally healthy. We got a new coach as well, Kenny Atkinson, but like they are finally all together. So shout out to them.
All right, let's move on to dog treats. And since there will be no pod next week, which would be our Thanksgiving episode, we're going to do a What Are You Thankful For? And particularly, we'll call it with sports, let's say. Ryan Greaser, I'd like you to lead us off this week.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to go with I'm thankful for this era of the NBA because I know that a lot of people hate on NBA basketball. Like, admittedly, the game has changed so much that like it is not what it used to be. But I really enjoy getting to watch this product of basketball. I like high scoring games, but then you have teams like the Magic who play incredible defense, like which shows it can still be done. I'm really enjoying where the NBA is at right now, so I'm going to say that I'm thankful for the NBA.
Howard?
I'm thankful that John Mosey Live will no longer be the GM as he is here, and
They still get one more year though. You still get.
It doesn't make any sense. Just for them to admit that they messed up in that aspect, just with player development, and they're committing more to that. I'm thankful for that final admittance, and hopefully they can get back on the right track. So we'll see how it shapes out in the offseason, how committed they are to actually resetting or whatever. But just thankful for hopefully a change in the direction.
For both of for the Cubs and Cardinals, this is a really weird off season. Like I don't think either team is really optimistic heading into this off season.
Not at all.
It's just like what the heck is going to happen?
It just depends on what's going to happen.
What direction do they see themselves going in the future? I've said this before, but I'm really thankful, especially given how my NFL team has done recently for Ohio State. They're the only thing that gives me joy on weekends anymore at this point. Football in particular, because at least I know I'm going to get a dub most Saturdays. Very, very thankful for them. I hope by the time you see us next, they beat the crap, not only out of Indiana, but more importantly, beat the crap out of Michigan. Also, I don't know if I've talked about this on the pod, but I'm making my bucket list trip this year with my guy, and we are going to a college football game in Iowa. We're going to watch Iowa play Nebraska on Black Friday night. It's going to be nice. It's probably going to be cold, but it's going to be fun.
Dude, that's a heck of a drive out there.
It's like in a good or bad way?
Bad way. It's just boring and it's long.
Well, it's not. Okay,
Well, from Central Illinois, it's better.
Right, and I will be going for the Peoria area, not even from the Springfield area. So, yeah, so it's not even going to be that. Like maybe 3 hours, I think.
Yeah.
And like last year we went to Columbus, that was 7.5. The year before we went to Lexington, which was 5, and then we went to Oxford, Mississippi the year before, so that was probably like 4.5. So this is going to be the shortest one we've made so far. And listen, I think that it's not going to be like a crazy good game, but it is a rivalry. It's going to be intense. If Nebraska loses to Wisconsin this week, they'll be fighting for a bowl game, and so that'll be a pretty interesting thing. I've always wanted to see the wave.
Yeah.
Iowa does. It's always a nice moment. So, yeah, very thankful for Ohio State and college football for giving me joy, and the South Carolina Gamecocks too. Shout out to them. I'm about to sneeze, so Ryan, do the outro for me.
Do the outro for you. So, if you're listening on Spotify, please check out the new YouTube channel, Inside Sports. This week's podcast will release on, I'm going to guess, somewhere around Friday.
Sure.
I don't know for sure if I'm editing it or if Will is doing it this week. But for Howard Woodard and JKruse, I'm going off the script here. This is Ryan Grazer signing off, and we'll see you next week.
Shout out NyQuil.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.